Our very first challenge, and hence our priority, is peace. Peace is the ultimate goal of every society, but it's the very essence and the raison d'être of the United Nations. Global security is a global challenge. Wars, conflicts, and terrorism pose a clear and massive threat to the lives of millions of citizens and provoke massive migrations and hordes of refugees. We share the grief of the families of the victims of terrorism. We understand the fear and the anger, and we take our share of the common fight against this invisible enemy. Georgia is thus contributing substantially to the peace missions, be it yesterday in Iraq or today in Afghanistan, in Mali or in Central Africa, far from our borders, but close to us out of our duty of solidarity. War and conflicts have been part of our history. For centuries, Georgia suffered numerous invasions and numerous invaders. Tbilisi, its capital city, was burned down 26 times. Its territory, parts of the territory, was occupied for short or long periods. Its religion and identity were actively suppressed at times, but it survived. And today, we proudly remain on the map of independent, sovereign, and democratic countries. This resilience is still our answer when confronting the tragedy that has been the 2008 war, followed by the occupation of 20% of our territory by Russia. As the President of Georgia, I have to speak out here on the plight of our people living on the administrative border boundary line that divides relatives between themselves, villages where incidents and provocations have become constant, where illegal borderization is actively pursued, preventing normal, peaceful life for our citizens. I have to speak out for our citizens living in the occupied territories of Abkhazia and Srin Valley, where continuous are the violations of human rights, restrictions to freedom of movement, of access to health and education services. The crossing points to both regions are closed on and off, causing immense humanitarian suffering. I have to speak out and warn the world. In the occupied Abkhazia, not only the Georgian language, but Abkhaz language, which the Georgian constitution recognizes and which I have to defend as the President of Georgia, and their identity are on the verge of disappearance. Abkhazian people suffer a drastic demographic reduction. And may I warn you, the world without Abkhazian language, identity, and traditions will be a much poorer place. We all have to unite to protect and save this rich cultural diversity that made at one time the Arabs call the Caucasus the mountain of languages. I have to speak out for our own IDPs and refugees that for now decades have been unable to return to their homes and land. Mr. President, our answer to the tragedy of war and occupation has been multifold. Our answer has been to preserve peace and development by keeping our word and respecting to the letter our commitments under the ceasefire agreement of 2008. Hence, we have no military forces whatsoever close to the occupation line, and Georgia has unilaterally renounced the use of force. Our answer has also been our extended hand, the peace program Step to a Better Future, allowing citizens from the occupied territories access, whenever they are not prevented from doing so, to health or education, sharing business opportunities, and to take part, albeit, alas, marginally, in Georgia's economic development. Our answer has been openness and tolerance. Last year, for instance, we received 1,500,000 Russian tourists without any incident to be recorded. Our answer has been to maintain our determined path of development, both economic and democratic, not to let anything divert us from our ambitions and concrete goals of European and Euro-Atlantic integration, and we have managed to make a remarkable progress in all these directions without ever changing our course, without ever counting our efforts, with always a clear vision of our destiny. That is, to some extent, our peaceful victory over war and occupation, over tragedy and destructions. But when we talk about the goal of peace and about ending conflict and occupation, we have also to act. We need movement and we need diplomacy. We have renounced the use of force, but we have not renounced dialogue. We are resilient, but we are not reconciled and resigned to the status quo. We need to make changes happen, and that is what we cannot do alone. We need the engagement of all towards the objective of a sustainable peace in this region.